Make sure when you make your comments, you're making them to me as a representative of the Marine Board. And, other people's opinions are perfectly valid. We don't need to challenge anybody's opinions. The Marine Board is going to be the ultimate decider on who's going to make the rules. So my job is to present them with opinions, information, and they'll make the final decision. So with that, before the meeting, Jay reminded me that we had one item from last month that I didn't do. So let me go back and do that now. And that is, we got these maps up here. Could you guys help me and identify what section of the river is used when and why? So right now, I know we've got salmon going on down here. So let's start at the beginning of the river. So somebody who's familiar, can you provide some information on what's going on right now?
Everybody's down there in that lower section this time of year in boats, and they're salmon fishing. They start in June, but very few boats are there in June. It picks up a little in July, and then it gets a lot more in August. Tons of boats there in September and early October, and then by the end of October, that section of the river is hardly fished.
So how high are they? Like,
every year's a little different. Last year, for example, they fished from Chinook Bend RV Resort down towards the 101 bridge. So you said they Chinook Bend on there?
Yeah, Chinook Bend.
From there down to the 101 bridge is where there was 100 boats every day down in that section, or 200 boats. It's busy.
So aside from this time of year, is there much activity down there?
Nobody there.
Okay. So next section.
It's some years the salmon decide to stop further upriver than that, like from Itchwood boat ramp up to about the 10-mile mark.
Okay.
Which, yeah, Itchwood's on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that depends on the salmon where they decide to hold up each year, but
Okay. But just generally in this area.
generally, yeah, from there down, yeah, that's generally it.
Okay.
At that time of year, that's it.
Anything else?
From Strom Park up to Strom Park. Let's see,
Strong.
and from Strom to Oregon Park, it depends on the first big rain. But you'll see boats hitting it, and from now until late winter or late fall. But just depends on the first rains when you'll see the activity from Strom Park up to Morgan.
So August through
November.
Is this so salmon right now? Salmon August through November?
Salmon.
Yes.
Most years they don't get up there in August, but you could have a big rain
Just
late
depends
August.
on when the rain, I've seen.
First rain through Thanksgiving.
This is perfect. I mean, it just getting an understanding of timing and doesn't need to be exact. So Jack Morgan.
First good rain, say 4-footer from Morgan. It can be all the way up to Old Yellow Bridge, which
Those all is on that same map, Alan.
Oh,
but they have a restriction for Chinook closure from there up, so something, so you can't really fish Chinook legally to Old Yellow Bridge, but,
and that's after when?
October 7th, you're allowed to fish above the bridge.
Are non-RAC committee members, whatever, is it kind of an open?
No. Try to keep direct members.
All right.
Stop talking. No. But
Because if not, I'll, they're, man, as well.
no, let's limit it to rack. Thank you for pointing that out. So above Ojala, no Chinook before October 7th. And when's the season end? Is that
It ends December 31st.
Okay, so any other seasonality associated with this?
That's pretty good on the salmon. And the steel, nobody fishes steelhead in that section of the river. Pretty much. Well, and when the river's real low, they'll fish from Ojala to Morgan, but for the most part, the steelhead fishing starts at Ojala and goes up to Moonshine. And that's December through early April.
Well, there's a cutoff date also from Illahee up is closed to Chinook fishery. I think October 7th. Is that right? Am I right?
That's when it closes.
That's right. So
You
it
can,
closes
from
from Illahee up.
from the second, yeah. Okay, so make sure I understand this. So no Chinook below Ojala before October 7th. No,
No, that's
Chinook
not right.
after,
You can, it's
from there.
above Ojala, no Chinook, above
After.
Ojala before October 7th.
Okay. Sorry, I'm confused. So am I right here below Ojala?
You can fish for Chinook.
You can fish
Yes.
up to,
You can fish them right now.
so Chinook before October 7th. Then above Ojala after October 7th?
Yes.
Yeah.
Up to Illahee, which is the Siletz part.
Okay. Okay, so Chinook after October 7th through the end of the year?
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, it's pretty much tapered out by the 1st of December.
But the seasons.
Yeah.
Okay. So steelhead, December through April, and that's from,
Can be from Strom up. All the way down to Strom Park, you can fish winter steelhead.
okay,
You can, but nobody fishes down there.
so where's steelhead fishing normally?
The moonshine around town.
The lion's share would be from the Ojala slide to Moonshine. That's gonna be probably your lion's share of steelhead fishing. You can fish above it, below it, but it's not the most productive.
So what I have here, basically from July to April, there's fishing. So April to July, there's relatively minimal fishing.
Yeah.
Motorized fish, yeah, I mean,
The river gets so low that, I mean, and if it's, trout fishermen that are here and there, not for bank fishermen.
you would say it's predominantly bank fishing at those times because of the flow of the river.
But yes, we're still at fish. Via bank fishing, yes, okay. Or out of a canoe, the water level gets pretty low, and so it gets to, yeah. So am I correct to translate that the issues that we're having are from July through April?
No,
No, I can simplify it for you.
Yeah.
Down around Morgan, the issue is like from the first rain through November, that's where the big boats run around.
I'm sorry, say that again. From
Morgan, Morgan up.
Morgan?
Yeah. Remember last time we were talking about the big?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's at Morgan and that starts with the first rain, which is usually like late September
Yeah.
on an average year, and it goes through November. So that's that time frame down there. And then the steelhead fishing is December through April with the drift boats. And that's up Moonshine to
Okay, oh, sorry, let me write this down. Morgan to where is the sled issue?
Oh, just up a few miles from Morgan.
They can go as far as they want, just depends on the water,
Where do they typically go?
upriver from Oregon.
Well, I know,
Big
but
sled boats do,
where? Do they
Right about there where your
to
finger is.
Ojala?
No, I,
sometimes,
But somewhere between.
yeah.
Yeah.
somewhere, Yeah.
I'm just gonna put Ojala to make it easy. And that's for salmon,
Salmon.
and the dates would be essentially August and November.
Well, the first rain, it's usually late September through Thanksgiving most of the time.
Safe to say the months of October and November based on the flows of the water.
Okay, so that's.
All right, sled, there you go.
Okay, so drift. Okay,
In that commentary.
yeah, thank you, Phil. So Phil just reminded me, we've got now have Nolan and Logan online. We can hear you, so feel free to jump in. I can't see you. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand. Jennifer is watching for that, but otherwise feel free to jump in. Are you guys, can you hear me? And if you could just.
Yeah, I can hear you.
And this is
Logan.
Logan. Thank you, Logan. Nolan,
Star 6 to unmute.
are you there, Logan?
I'm there.
Nolan, I'm sorry. Was that Nolan?
Nolan is on the call, but it's star 6 to unmute your phone, Nolan.
So we can't hear you, Nolan. Are you, is he,
Dialed in.
but is he write comments? Can he write comments now? So we can't hear you, Nolan.
I can't unmute.
Does he need to like dial in or star 6 9 to
Just
unmute?
star 6.
Sorry, star 6. Okay, if we can't get you to unmute.
Nolan, you may want to disconnect and try to call back in because it doesn't appear that you're getting off mute. Oh, looks like it's gonna cut.
Okay. So let's move on. So Steelhead, December through April, is that the main drift? Right. That's good to know. So yeah, Angela.
Yeah, I had a comment before the meeting started. If we could ask people to stay off their phones during the meeting out of respect for the committee.
Appreciate that. Thank you. And yeah. Obviously, some people will need to if we'll respect you.
I'm on call 24/7 with my job, so I mean, I try to monitor my tags, but I'm on call 24/7.
Okay, Nolan is back. Nolan, it's star 6 to unmute your phone.
Still not able
It's
to.
not
unmute.
unmuting.
So I'm not sure how to fix that, Nolan. If you want, submit comment after the meeting.
You can email me during the meeting and I'll check it too.
Oh, yeah, email Jennifer She sent you the notice, so you have her email address, so feel free to email her questions and we'll get address those as they come in.
Alan, one update to that. The Morgan to Ojala section where you wrote just sled, there's also drift boats that fish that, a lot of drift boats.
Okay.
For Chinook in the fall.
Is there conflict with those drift boats? Or is that,
Not as much, no.
What do you mean, is there conflict?
well, so I guess what I'm saying is that, are we having issues between the jet boats versus the sleds versus motorized versus non-motorized? Is this something that we need to specifically address? Is there potential for, doing rules specific to this area that may be different than this area? Just because part of what we're doing is just trying to understand the nature of the conflict. And since we opened up rulemaking, if we can address some of that conflict or the issues, I would like to hear about it and, have it discussed and give the board the opportunity to weigh in if they choose to.
From Jack Morgan down is what you're saying,
The river.
the river, other than what we're talking about, what's been proposed. It's so inaccessible for so much of that, the distance is.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
If they put in at Old Yellow Bridge and go downstream, there's not near the conflict. If they try to blow upriver, then you got a problem.
And that's primarily the sleds that
It's
are,
both. Sometimes the river gets too shallow and they try to blow up through them spawn beds and they'll try everything to get upriver. And I found out that they're building boats bigger and better to fly upriver now. And then they don't have to be jet boats either. They call them jerk boat sled hybrids. And they're gonna be on the river, you watch. And they're gonna be blowing up these riffles like nobody's business.
But correct me if I'm wrong on that, those are like the Clackamas, you're talking those all are pump driven and
They don't have to be. They don't have to be pump driven. They can be outboard. Or just
yeah,
like they do now.
they are outboards with pumps and the pumps we've established are outlawed already, right? Like that's not a discussion.
so,
I've never once seen one with a prop on it. Everyone I've seen is a pump. And so that would
You
be,
will.
and that's, appreciate the information. One of the things I've learned in this job, boat technology is changing quickly
That's
right
right.
now. Good example in our rules, we have electric motor only. Last time I checked, the speed record for an electric boat was 104 miles per hour. Maybe it was 107. So when we think electric motors, we're not thinking about 107 miles per hour. We're thinking, Minn Kota, 3-4 miles per hour. So, technology is going to change. We'll try and address it to the extent we can, but I can't predict where boats are going to go. So we'll do the best we can. If we need to address it in the future, we'll try and do that if we can't address it here. So is that a pretty accurate representation of what we're looking at or what we need to look at?
Yeah,
I would agree.
that's it.
Okay. So what I provided for everybody is meeting notes. And what I really want to do today is look at some of the other coastal streams I've looked at. And I've selected these rivers because there's boat restrictions and there's a salmon season. So, we've addressed these rivers. So I want to go through and say what we did on can't pronounce that first one.
Mechanium.
Wood slow, no wake. If we made that rule, how would it help? What would it not do? What problems would it create?
Who's gonna police it? Nobody.
So Well, alls I can do is issue the rules. We contract with Lincoln County Sheriff's Department to enforce the rules. I don't have control over their schedules or agenda. So the only thing I can do is put the rules down. If they're not gonna enforce it, we'll have a conversation with them. You guys can talk with the sheriff's office. But at the first step, I've got to get a rule before they can enforce it.
But your rules have to be reasonable and effective.
Yeah. No, I'm not
And we know
gonna,
the realities of budgets and
Yeah.
personnel constraints and things, so let's not be ignorant of that. I mean, I
right.
think we have to consider it.
No, I agree. I'm not gonna have, a rule for this section, a rule for that section. I mean, I'd like to do as global as possible and as simple as possible. For today, I want ideas, what you guys think, well, let's just go start this now. So on the Mechanicum, we have slow, no wake. I put the river mile. So I think that one's pretty much, most of our rules would be from where there's a bay, where the river starts coming out of the bay. So it's, neck down and starting to look like a river, not a bay. That's where the slow, no wake would start on the Mechanicum. So what issues, if we made this entire section slow, no wake, does that help anything? Let's.
I think it does, absolutely. I've fished down there and, some of the boats, a lot of guys have their boats moored up on their private docks, and some of those boats throw a pretty significant wake. And even though you are responsible for your wake, again, society as a whole has proven that they, rules are only as good as they can be as enforced. And so, I know when my boat's moored up, I hope everybody's respectful, but again, society as a whole is, when they're in a hurry.
Yeah.
And they sometimes that goes out the window, and in the slow, no wake zones, I think would definitely improve that area, because the river's pretty narrow in those places.
At this point, would it help the entire river? And I know it may not be applicable to some sections, but I'm just saying, if we did slow, no wake from, wherever we want to start to the mouth, would that be a good thing? Would it be an improvement, or what are the positives?
The positive are the damage, that's the wake, like I said, if people could police themselves to be respectful and responsible, then it wouldn't be an issue. But again, society has proven that the rules that we make are great. You're not supposed to run any outboard without your safety switch tied off to you.
Right.
It's not, again, it's a rule that nobody follows. No, that's not fair. Nobody follows. So predominantly you see, I'm only going 50 feet, or I'm only going 100 feet. And so there's no big deal mentality to it. And so, let's make the whole river no wake. It would be an improvement.
So what does that not address? What problems still would remain if the board said we're going to make the entire river slow, no wake? Does that solve all the problems, or do we still have outstanding issues?
I think then you're gonna have what is considered to be a wake. So the second you turn a drift boat upriver, I don't care what it's powered under, it's gonna throw a wake. So what is the definition of a wake?
Our definition is in gear, no throttle.
In gear, no throttle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would solve all the issue.
So we're not voting, but if that was the rule, you'd be happy. Yeah. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of go around. Angela, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it solves all the issues.
Okay. But I think you're saying you think it's an improvement. Is that right?
From current condition.
Yeah. Okay. I made that assumption. I wanted to make sure
that is what yes.
Yeah.
It is an improvement.
So what do you think it doesn't address.
It doesn't address boats going up and down the river, which is a problem when you're churning up and down through the holes and keeping other fishermen from having access to those.
And I'm just trying to make sure we understand, because the board will want to look at what we've done before. So I want to be able to say, looked at this issue, here's what it fixes, here's what it doesn't fix. So I'm not suggesting we do any of these things. This is just conceptual. Anything else?
I might think of something.
We'll come back, Jerome.
But you're saying a no wake zone from basically the mouth of the ocean to infinite.
The headwaters.
I think that's one super unrealistic. I mean, you're gonna have how many people are user groups in that lower river that part of the year? I mean, it's not gonna be enforceable. I mean, for one thing, nobody's gonna do it. And what precedent does that set for the rest of the state? I mean, you start taking all these coastal rivers and saying there's no wake zones. I mean, you're down in Newport, you're in Newport Bay, and the commercial boat, you're gonna tell the commercial boat to say, you're not allowed to make a wake leaving the harbor.
So we're the state marine board, we can't tell commercial boats anything.
Well,
Yeah, but I
Noah
get your
boats,
point.
anybody
So
else?
what I was trying to say over here, so if this was Newport and we tried to do something similar, we wouldn't do the bay. It would be, that's a tough example. Maybe,
Columbia River. I mean,
Tillamook Bay is an easier example because there you have a distinct bay and then you have like 4 or 5 rivers coming off. So like on the Wilson River, you can say, the rules for the bay are different than the rules for the river. And so I'm more talking about the rules for the river. And Wilson, you can see, when you're entering the Wilson River, or I think on the Wilson, we have Highway 101. Wilson is Sully Smith program, which is about 4 miles upriver. So that's kind of what I'm thinking here. Maybe, do we start at Coyote Park? Do we start at the,
I guess I'll ask this, is there any other river in the state right now that we know of that has a no wake zone and say like a freshwater section? We're gonna call this a freshwater section, non-tide water. Are there any rivers that have a no wake zone established at this point?
So I've got that. So Miami River is electric only. Wilson River is slow no wake, 2 Sully Smith River, and then an electric above.
Yeah, most of the Tillamook Bay rivers are.
Or no wake zones in the freshwater?
So we do have precedent. Chris, did you want?
Yeah, not to throw off the discussion, but I got the sense that, one of the reasons we were here, or the reason we were here was to discuss some of these upstream motor issues. And I keep going back to Tidewater. So is that part of the petition and is that part of our scope?
So the petition was Jack Morgan and above. When the board voted, they voted to open rulemaking on the Siletz. So I'm not saying we're going to change anything below Jack Morgan, but while we're here discussing, I want to have a discussion about the entire river. Just to present it to the board. The board will make the decision. Do they want to limit it to Jack Morgan? Do they think we came up with a great idea? So we'll carry it through different sections. Maybe the board will just say, we're only going to do rules from Ajala up. I don't know.
Okay,
so that's why
for these Tidewater areas, I think as your rules kind of suggest, there's generally not motor size restrictions or horsepower restrictions, but there are no wake zones and no wake area in Tidewater.
Okay. So given the reality of enforcement from a rule perspective, good, bad, what does it help? What doesn't it address?
I mean, I think it just limits access, in my opinion. I mean, you start saying who can make a wake and who can't. I mean, and if you're respectful of the wake, then, there's sections of the river, there's nothing on either side other than gravel, dirt. I mean, so now you're starting to limit who can use the river and who can't.
Okay.
And that's,
No, I appreciate that perspective. Jay?
Don't we already have it within 200 yards of 200 feet of a dock, you have to idle in tidewater? I mean, that's already a rule.
Yeah.
In tidewater, but to me, it's a moot point because this river is so big compared to the Canicum, the Kilchis, the Wilson. We got 53 miles of boatable water here. Those rivers have like less than 10. And it's really not even a fair comparison, but look like the Alsea, the Nehalem, the Rogue, those are more similar in size to the Siletz. And
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm just taking examples from other somewhat similar
Yeah.
rivers and not. But,
yeah, well, yeah,
and that's what I want to hear. So you're saying logistically, it's a bad idea.
oh yeah, shouldn't even consider no wake on 53 miles of river.
Okay.
That's just absurd to me.
Okay. Sir?
I'd like to point out, if you have a no wake recommendation, nobody's gonna enforce it, and there'd be no sense in having a motor. Absolutely no sense at all.
Okay.
If you can't make a wake, why need a motor?
Okay.
Okay, I like to point out from Morgan Park down to Strome Park, a lot of people fish that water going upstream from Strome Park. If you can't throw a wake, it'll take you 3 hours to get up in the bag. So that ain't gonna work.
Okay.
So I think they've already, like you said, they've already got that established down there. No wake, there's lots of signs, no wake, no wake. So I wouldn't even be concerned about anything below Morgan Park.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, Logan, do you have any input on this?
Yeah, like a couple people said, down in Tidewater, it's basically already a no wake zone with 200 feet from docks. I mean, if you've been down there before, there's a lot of houses with docks, and we all go no wake anyway, so that shouldn't matter down there. And then as far as upriver, with the drift boats, the wakes thrown by the drift boats are very small and don't really have an impact to anything, especially in high water. You got big rapids, a lot of water, causes a lot more damage than a little drift boat wake.
Okay. I'm assuming, Nolan, you're still not able, or we're still not able to hear you. So would love to get your input. If you could email us, that would be awesome. So same issue, same slow no wake. Is there a spot that it makes sense to do slow no wake above? So instead of treating the river the same, do we say slow no wake above Jack Morgan? Do we say slow no wake above Illahee? Is there a spot that it would make more sense, kind of to address your?
But Morgan up, if you do that, you're gonna stop the turbidity from these motors. But like I said, what's the point of having a no wake if you can't go up or down? You're gonna make a wake, so why have a motor?
So slow no wake is going to be in gear, and I guess generally on a still body it would be no throttle, but on a moving body you'd have to have enough throttle to get you moving upstream if you're heading upstream.
So so that changes the definition of what slow no wake means.
No, you're right.
that gets right back to square one of not having a motor. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're a strong enough rower rowing upriver, you're gonna make a wake with your own, I mean.
So, like I said, I'm not suggesting this. I just want input.
I think
So-
Jay was right. It's a moot point to,
Okay.
a no wake. I mean, just because of what, like Jerome said, I mean, that's literally by your first definition, that is no motors.
So the Miami, the Kilches, the Wilson, Trask, they're slow no wake up to a point for the most part, and then it's electric only. So same question, if we made this entire section electric only, let's start with Logan. Do you have any ideas on how that would make the river better? What it would address, what it would not address?
Yeah, I think it's doing electric only takes away certain user groups because a lot of people, electric motors are expensive compared to other stuff, other motors. And so a lot of people can't afford that.
So an access issue?
Correct.
Okay.
I need to point out that you're looking at downriver. He doesn't know that.
Oh, yeah, for the entire river, and that's, I'm sorry, I'm pointing here, but for the entire river, if the board chose to go electric only, and by electric, I mean trolling motors, not a high speed, 107 mile per hour boat. So Logan, your comment is it limits access to people who can afford the technology. Is that right?
Yeah. So the electric only, you were saying for the whole river or just from a certain point up? I didn't get that.
So what I'm gonna do, Logan, is ask about the whole river and then come back and say, does it make sense for a certain section? Or actually,
Oh,
if
okay.
you think certain sense, or if it makes sense to do electric for a section, love to hear that input as well.
Yeah, as far as the whole river, well, we got big tides sometimes down low, outgoing or incoming. A lot of times, the electric motor can't even push against the tide when it's ripping that fast. So that would be not only safety problem to begin with.
So if we move the electric motor limit upstream, would it make sense, and how far up?
Uh, it could, but like I said earlier, only certain people will be able to have electric motors.
Sure.
The ones that people use on drift boats are very expensive, and also you have to carry multiple batteries that also weigh who knows how many pounds, adding more weight to your boat, which kind of
Okay. So you're saying nowhere on the river does it make sense to do electric only?
No.
Okay. Mike, let's go. I'm just changing it up.
Well, like I said, they're changing these styles of these boats, so they're gonna be, whether they're electric or not, they're gonna go upstream. They're making a 36 volt motor or electric motor right now. It almost has a 50 horse thrust on it. So my idea is to get rid of all the motors.
Okay.
From Moonshine down to Morgan. That's my philosophy.
So you think, just summarizing to address the electric, you think it's a bad idea?
I do.
There's no benefit to
Get
it?
rid of all.
Okay. Todd?
No, there's no benefit because it goes back to my original concern of the inequitable share of. Logan is right. I own it. I own the $3,000 Dakota lithium battery. But there's very few people that can afford that level of gear. And so, but to me, it's this, there's no benefit to it because it's still that inequitable share. A lot of the public aren't skilled enough to run a motor up a river. You have to be pretty savvy to do all that because the water's coming against you. It's an art. That's why we are professionals.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't see it being a benefit at all to make it electric only on any of this river.
Okay. Jay?
Well, I think if you catch more fish with a motor on your boat than you do without a motor. You catch more with a gas motor than you do with an electric motor. But still, I mean, so we all want to use.
Okay, explain that to me. Why do you catch more with the gas versus electric?
It's got more power,
Okay,
like a 8 horse kicker
okay.
or 9.9.
So
You go upstream.
what you're saying is the electric does not have the ability to go upstream, or it's just slower than a gas?
Depends on the current and the tide.
Yeah.
And a real strong current, a gas motor is stronger, it's got more power than an electric motor.
Okay.
It's,
But to summarize, gas will allow you to drift through the same hole 10 times, where maybe an electric would be 6 or 7 times.
That's true. And
I'm just, is that a good summary?
yeah, that's a good
Okay.
summary.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to make sure I understand.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, gas motor's best, electric motor second best. No motor is by far third best. That's my opinion. And looking at your list of rivers, all the only ones with electric are really small rivers in comparison to the size of the Siletz. There's no electric motors on the Rogue and the Halem. And the LC, which are the three and most similar size to the Siletz on your list.
Okay.
So it's, you know, people like gas motors on those bigger rivers because it's in the winter time when there's a lot of rain.
Yeah.
The river's up 7-8 feet. The electric motor is worthless when the river's that
No,
big. Yeah.
And I'm happy to hear this is a bad idea. So,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm hearing, Angela. Good, bad?
Well, I don't think it addresses the issue. I mean, motors are the issue.
Okay.
And so electric, gas, lithium, you know, propane, it doesn't really matter.
Well, and that, you know, and I want to point out that which one of these rivers have the cultural significance that the Siletz has? So, I mean, and that's got to have some weight as well as when we're talking apples to apples, you know, we want to say what they do on the Rogue or what they do.
So to give you some background on that issue, so this is the first time the Marine Board's gotten a petition from a tribal entity. And so we have tribal consultation with the tribe specific to, you know, address tribal concerns. This is a public forum, so I'm not our tribal liaison. So what I'm doing is running this as a public forum. And so in a public forum, we would be willing to listen to tribal concerns, but that's, you know, if somebody brings them up, that's great. But then we'll consult with the tribes. And so we'll more address the tribal concerns through that process.
But tribal members are the public.
Yes, yes. I'm not saying we're not going to address it, but I think if there's specific, I'm not the tribal.
Well, I think the public needs to hear those concerns though.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, and I'm good with that. I mean, yes, it's something that we will consider for this process. If somebody wants to bring up the tribal importance of this river versus others, I'm happy to hear the comments. I'm not an expert on that. And so I think you're saying this is a very tribally significant river.
I'm speaking for Todd Logan,
Yeah,
you know, and what this river, you know, to my user group of what I'm here to represent, not. And so, you know, but I was just drawn to the fact of, you know, we're trying to equate the Siletz to a lot of things, but it is a unique river. That's what I'm saying now.
Yeah.
So
I 100% appreciate that. And we've talked several times about the dance between public process and tribal process. So.
And that's in our Nolan sent, comment.
Oh, so does that, am I stepping on toes, Angela?
we'll talk later.
Okay, I'm happy to hear tribal concerns. And as a member of the public, any comment is perfectly acceptable if it's a concern. I'm not trying to shut down anything. I'm just not the tribal expert. So Janine's our tribal liaison. She'll work with the tribe to better understand those issues.
The public needs to understand those issues. So just to reiterate.
Okay. Nolan has some comments. Perfect.
Nolan says, I'd like to remind everyone that drift boats come with and are designed to be used by oars. Zero access would be limited with the loss of gas motors.
I couldn't hear. I can't hear.
So here,
Okay, you read
let me.
it. You're better.
So Nolan Davis, I'd like to remind everyone that drift boats come with and are designed to be used with oars. Zero access would be limited with the loss of gas motors. It would require effort, which clearly nobody wants to exert themselves for a fish. Guides on the Nestucca just do double drifts if they want to hit up another section again. There is now a 7.5 horsepower electric motor that would absolutely push a drift boat back upstream fast enough to throw a wake. Jerome, any comments on electric?
No, I don't, I'm not sure this is really part of that. I mean, I don't see that going anywhere with this. I mean,
So
as far as,
you think electric's a bad idea?
yeah,
Okay. So,
I have a quick question for you,
yes, sorry, Chris.
just for context. So has the Marine Board used the same definition for electric ever since day one? Or has it changed over time? I'm not sure what the.
So
definition is.
right now, when we first started using electric motor, the only electric motors that were available were essentially, you know, the Minn Kota 12 volt. And so we didn't need to address speed because speed was never an issue with an electric motor. I think we've changed our definition that electric motor means slow, no wake. It has to be an electric motor, but only operating at slow, no wake speeds.
Okay, gotcha.
So, like Nolan said, the 7.5 horsepower electric, if they were to use that on a slow, no wake water body, they could, but it would have to be at slow, no wake speeds.
Okay,
They
thank
couldn't
you.
open it up and jump up on plane. Anybody on the rack want to, Logan? No, I started with Logan. Any other concerns or discussion? And I think we've already said it doesn't help on if we broke the river down into sections, that the rule would, electric motors would be good on a certain section as opposed to a different section. Okay. So looking at some of the other, okay, so Canicum, slow no wave, the Halem, horsepower restrictions. So let's look at horsepower restrictions. So this is essentially, you know, if we said like on the Rogue, we did a 15 horsepower limit on sections of the Rogue. If we applied that to the entire river, does it help? I'll start with you this time, Angela.
Maybe.
Okay, what does maybe mean? What benefit would we get from limiting to 15 horsepower?
Well, it would restrict your ability to maneuver in the river. Water's high. But
So, I mean, I think it probably addresses high-powered sleds. They'd no longer be able to come up to Ojala. Is that fair?
I think it addresses some of the issue, but it doesn't address, you know, I think where everybody's getting a little bit, not off topic but, you know, I think everybody here can agree, you know, what we're talking about is from Jack Morgan. You know, as far as opening the river to any other rules, really because of the access around from Strom, like Mike was saying, to get up into the bag. You know, it's just, we're just talking about
He knows what the bag means.
Uh,
Explain that to him.
the tide
No,
line
it's-
that you have there. That's what we call the bull's bag.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think everybody's getting a little bit, not off topic, but confused with, you know, we don't want to speak for, or not that we don't want to, but it's really a moot point. We're here to talk about Jack Morgan Ave is what is kind of how I'm feeling right now anyway. It's, you know, a lot of these issues are not for the whole river because it's from tidewater down. You know, the only way you can access a lot of that is you know, with a more powerful,
Okay, so
so.
Mike, do you agree with that?
I'd like to
We
say,
shouldn't discuss anything below Jack Morgan.
well, I can't speak for the Marine Board, but right now it's recommended nothing bigger than 15 horse or more than up. But I'm not gonna say their names, but they take advantage of it by increasing their motor size and they're blowing up that
Oh, okay,
river.
hang on a sec, time out. Do we need to discuss any regulations below
Okay, I
Jack
just, I
Morgan?
wanted to bring that up. Right now, you can run a jet motor from Morgan down, all the
Yes.
way down to the mouth.
Yes,
And to me, I don't want to restrict that motor size from that point down, because that's not our focus. Our focus right now is Morgan up.
okay,
So I
so
don't even want to address that. That's another can of worms.
you're in agreement with that? So nothing needs to be done below Jack Morgan?
I would say not right now.
Okay. Anybody else? Jay, Jerome, Angela? Are you guys in agreement with that statement?
Below Jack Morgan, leave it as it is. I mean, that's my opinion.
Chris, do you have any input?
Yeah, my sense coming in was there was really no fishery related issues below Morgan.
Okay.
That this issue would
Logan,
address.
do you agree with that?
Yeah, nothing needs to be changed down low or the entire river.
Okay. So let's not talk about that. You have your hand up, Phil?
No.
Okay. So then we were starting to talk about 15 horsepower. So from Jack Morgan to the headwaters, does would a 15 horsepower limit improve the river? I think we started with you, Todd. So do you have any?
In my opinion, no, it doesn't address the issues that.
The equity in fishing?
Yes.
Okay. Logan, do you have any comments on 15 horsepower restriction above Jack Morgan?
No, not really. There's just a small amount of people that use more than a 15, and I don't think it's an issue. Most of the motors on the river are 8 or 9.9, and don't cause much issues with the whole wake size and erosion.
Okay. Jerome, Chris, do you have any input on? And I'm using 15, maybe 10 makes sense, maybe 20 makes sense. So if you have a different horsepower recommendation, that's fair game. I'm just thinking
Well,
small motors.
My recommendation is no motors,
Okay. But
you know, I mean, everybody knows where everybody sits on.
right, but and I'm just again making
Right.
recommendations. If as a second choice, would a horsepower restriction make it better?
No.
Chris, do you have any?
Well, all I can really say on the subject is, when we get into potential natural resource impacts, specifically salmon or spawning salmon, could have a discussion about, how that risk is distributed, relative to the horsepower of the motors on the river.
Okay.
i.e., higher horsepower motors may subject eggs in the gravel, for example, to more risk than a smaller horsepower. But it's just maybe a little more detailed conversation than we're having right now.
Perfect. So Nolan has,
I agree, no changes necessary below Morgan.
small horsepower motors. 15, for example.
I don't necessarily still I think you could make a case for a section of that river, maybe going to that point, but I don't think the whole thing should have any restriction on that as far as horsepower. I mean, I'm not in favor of it. So, but I mean, if there's a mutual ground for everybody, I think that's something to explore, but I don't,
Yeah, but not your first choice.
but not the first choice.
Jay, any?
Yeah, I do. So what we're talking about is from Morgan to Ojala. We're just talking about that little section right there. That's the only place where above Morgan where they use big motors. Is from Morgan to Ojala. So we're just talking, and again, it's like October, November, when the salmon are up in there,
Right.
2 months of the year. And there's maybe 5 boats a day in that section. So it's not
5 boats with the large motors.
per day in that section. And then from there all the way up to Moonshine, it's all 15 and under horsepower anyway already. So you're just,
No, it ain't.
I've never
There's
seen,
no restriction on the motor size on the sled.
So I think what he's saying is you don't see the larger motors upstream, which
yeah, you don't, yeah, you can, I know what the law says, but in reality, you never see a boat from Moonshine down to Ojala with over 15 horsepower.
Okay.
Ever.
So that restriction would have no weight at all in reality. And I'm wondering, do we have good data at all on any of this stuff? As far as surveys at, you know, the boat ramps or anything about motor size, number of boats, number of users per day during the season, any of that stuff? I mean, I know what people are anecdotally reporting from their own experiences, but do we have any actual data on that? When you're saying 5 boats in that
So-
one section of river per day, how valid is that?
we have our boater surveys, and we're in the process of doing another one. We reach out to boaters, they report where they use their boat, what activity they're engaged in. Not a scientific survey.
Yeah, it's a voluntary reporting.
Yes. Boat ramps, those are all managed by other entities, marine boat ramps. So if a facility owner does that type of survey, I'm not aware of it. But I think, are these county parks? Okay, so I don't know if Lincoln County has that data, but I'll certainly look into
And
it.
ODFW doesn't gather any of those data.
No, when we do creel surveys, that's not,
Not a question you asked for.
Alan, the fishermen have already pretty much self-regulated themselves. Everything above Ojala Bridge up, they use 15 horse and under anyway up in that section. So I mean, you could make that a law if you wanted to, but you don't need to.
So let's talk about that. So would it make sense to say, no, because I'm hearing we do have sleds with big, large motors using this section. Would it benefit to say nothing over 15-ish horsepower between Jack Morgan and Ojala?
No, not that section, but from Ojala upriver, you could say 15 and under.
1,500 from Ojala to the headwaters?
Yeah.
Okay.
15 horse or less. But we already do that anyway.
Okay.
Like I said, so.
So Jerome, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I don't know if I've personally ever seen a bigger boat than that above Ojala. I can say I haven't.
Okay.
Everything I've ever seen is, we don't want to get hypotheticals of numbers here, but the lion's share majority of boats from Moonshine to Ojala are going to be drift boats with motors under 15 horsepower.
Okay.
That's my experience.
And you two,
Well,
it doesn't
I
address
wanna
the
explain
equity,
the
but yes.
reason why that is what it is. The 15 horse is an old 2-stroke technology. They're not around everywhere. There's maybe a handful of guys I know that run them, because the 8 horse and the 9.9s are far more efficient. They're 4-stroke. You're not mixing gas anymore. So that's why nobody's running anything over a 15-horse motor.
Okay.
It's purely for that reason. No,
But
and so, you know, yeah, you don't have to have a 15-horse motor because the 8s and 9.9s are fully capable.
yeah, and I'm just saying, if we put a rule that said 15 or under, and I think you
But
guys
that's
have
why
been
it
clear,
doesn't make sense because 15 is old technology.
so 10 and under.
5.
So,
I mean, you know, and so, because again, you're getting into you're trying to split hairs of what, not you, Alan,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, no,
not saying
I
that.
know. No.
This topic is literally, you know, again, with enough money, you can get around all of it.
Yeah.
So,
but I think both you and Angela are in agreement. Having the motors doesn't address, for you, it's the fishing equity. And for you, I think it's mostly like the environmental, I think fishing equity is probably in there as well.
It's both, and it's access
And I
for
think
tribal
both.
members to exercise their culture and their rights. The motors that we've heard directly from our membership, that the motors are driving people off the river.
Okay.
They're no longer fishing the way they used to because of the conflicts with the motorized
Okay,
crews.
so you don't like the idea of somehow limiting horsepower, but allowing motors.
Well, it doesn't sound like would be effective. It wouldn't change anything.
Okay.
So
Um, I think I got input. Does anybody else have any input on small motors?
That's a very minimum. It's a very minimum, nothing bigger than a 15-horse, or more than that.
Okay.
It's a very minimum. If you guys make a change, you have to make at least that change.
So let me make one point. I'm using 15 because the last rulemaking we did was on the Rogue. There was more of the power sliders. What'd you call them? The
Power drifters, I think is what they call them.
Those were used more on the Rogue, but most traditional drift boats, their U.S. Coast Guard plate says 10 or under. So here, it would probably, if we went that route, we'd probably do 10 just to match with the boats that are used on the water. So,
I think Todd made a very good point. The older motors used to be mostly 2-cycle. Now they're 4-cycle, a lot of them.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have the 2-cycle still. I still got one. So if you make it 10-horse and under, that would include a lot of motors that would be fine. So you're not really restricting a whole bunch of people. So it's a very minimum 10-horse and under.
so make sure I'm understanding. You're okay. You think that if we limit it to 10, that would benefit from where we are today?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
But if you made it 15, a lot of people with 2-cycle could still use their motor. I'd have to buy a new one. But then we have concerns about the water quality. And that's another thing. That's a whole nother ballgame. So it's your guys' choice. We're just trying to make recommendations.
Yeah, no, it's a board's choice. I don't get a vote, but I do get to make a recommendation. And if you saw my recommendation on the Rogue and what the board did,
They made
they may have considered me.
major changes on the Road River because of these motors.
Well, and because of the process.
That's a hell of a lot bigger river than Siletz.
I want to clarify that there's not one single Clackacraft power drifter on that Rogue River where they made those changes. I guide that section of river. Those are big jet boats. Those are 24-foot Willie sleds. And then the Rogue Jet out of the adventure park.
Yeah.
These are not the Clackabacks power drifters by
So-
any means. The Rogue Jet boats that come out of the adventure park are carrying 40 people.
Yeah. Above Dodge Park, we did 15.
Above Dodge Bridge.
Dutch Ridge.
Yes. That's because that's where those handful of guys that still run the 15 horse 2-stroke motors.
We got public comments.
Yeah.
15.
Okay.
So, so on some of the other rivers, like the Nestucca, the Nehalem, we have limits on horsepower, basically winter. Nehalem's September 1, Nestucca's November 1, they're both through March 31st. Would doing something like that benefit the Siletz? And again, just above Jack Morgan.
You're back at square one. I mean, the majority of the user group is going to use it from these periods, especially here, September 1st and March 31st. That's the majority of the use above that is going to happen during that period because it's too low the rest of the year. So
another bad idea.
Well, I mean, it's back at square one. It's
Okay.
basically the same as not having a motor. I mean,
Okay. Everybody agreement with that? Comments? Okay. So let me throw out a combination. So if we did something like, let me just say Illahee. If we said, let's make this non-motorized and this 10 horsepower and under, what are your thoughts on that? Let's start with Logan. Oh, he can't see. So what I said is if we put a dividing line, and I just randomly picked the Illahee boat ramp, above that would be non-motorized, below that would be a limited horsepower, likely 10. And I'm just suggesting this is an example. If it's a good idea here, if it's a good idea here, let me know that. If it's a bad idea in general, I'm happy to hear that as well. So Logan, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I think it's a bad idea having no motors above, mainly because when we're fishing above there, usually it's high water during the winter, and trying to run that without a motor can be tough. And also, we have learned that we can fish the river 7-8 feet effectively with a motor, and without a motor, people don't even fish it that high. So we're able to fish more days.
Okay. Todd?
I disagree. I fish that river until it's over 9 feet. And
Okay, hang on a second. You disagree with my statement?
no, with what,
Okay.
Logan's saying that
So-
you can't. Because
Rather than disagree with Logan,
yeah, no,
what's
that's
what's
what
your view?
I should have chosen a different
You're
set of
good.
words, not disagree. My opinion is no motors above. If you do no motors above Illahee, you're only addressing half of the problem. Mainly because of the inequitable share. One, my first cultural site is Euchre Creek, which is below Illahee.
Okay.
So if you come up from Morgan to Euchre Creek right there, that's my first cultural fishing site.
No, next map.
No, you're
Well,
there.
Morgan's-
You're there. Yeah, and so
Morgan and Euchre Creek. The maps overlap a little.
Well,
and so
So-
you're only like going from Illahee upriver, you're only addressing half of the issue.
So what do you mean by cultural fishing?
Euchre Creek is where we have our cultural fishing, one of our cultural fishing sites.
Okay, what does that mean? I'm not familiar with that.
So we get 200, I believe, don't quote me because I'm not in that department. I get one cultural fishing tag for the season. And I can go up there at Euchre Creek Falls. We have a platform where we can dip net, gaff or spear one fish a year.
So
And
Euchre
I'd have to
Creek Falls
revert
is
to-
up here.
Well, Yeah, I mean, you go up in the woods there, it's not the actual falls, it's just
Yeah.
Okay,
a falls in that section.
so that's not the Siletz, but you access it. I mean, I get, I'm
Fish
trying to
access Euchre
understand.
Creek by the, to come up the Siletz to access Euchre Creek.
So,
Right.
and you row from,
No, no. So we're doing it off of a platform.
okay,
When I'm fishing out of my drift boat, that's when I'm rowing in the Siletz River. And so that's why, you know, the no motors above Jack Morgan, because the river's so narrow up there, you know, it's exactly what Angela said. A lot of people don't utilize the river because of the motors going up and down, and it's intimidating.
okay. So when you're doing the cultural fishing on Euchre Creek, the motors impacts your ability to do that.
Well, yeah, I
Is
think
that-
everybody in here stated that you catch more fish with a motor than you do without.
Okay, so you can do your activity on the cultural gaffing netting on Euchre Creek, but the motors going by, do they cause a problem? And I'm asking not the number of fish that make it to Euchre Creek, just whether a motor restriction on the Siletz impacts your ability to do your cultural fishing on Euchre Creek.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm missing that connection.
There, because that, you know, Cedar Creek is where it really starts to narrow down.
Okay,
And so, but because of access, you know, that's why it's not an issue. As far as the motor restriction, again, we're gonna get into the cultural side of this, which you've already stated is.
no, I'm happy to hear it.
And so
I just don't have the knowledge to address why we're doing
it goes,
something for cultural on this river versus other rivers. Because that's the point I was trying to make. I want to hear the cultural issues if they're brought up.
I thought you said we had to talk to Janine, the tribal lead. I'm confused now. Alan, I don't,
So you're a member of the public.
yes.
You can bring up whatever issue you want. The Marine Board, separate from this process, will do a tribal consultation with the tribes. And I'm not super familiar with that process, but I think, you know, the tribe is going to bring up its concerns and we'll address those specifically with the tribe. As a member of the public, I want to hear all your concerns. And so if it's a tribal concern, happy to hear that. Because that's
Again, I'm here,
100% valid.
I'm here as Todd Logan, you know.
Yeah.
And represent my other, you know,
Yeah.
the other tribal members that I fish with. You know, the impact that all of it has, you know, you've stated here all the restrictions. And we get more traffic from that because there are no restrictions on our river, which compounds the inequitable share. And then, you know, just with technology, you know, and by technology, I mean boats, motors, social media, electronics, you know, the whole gambit of things that these fish are fighting. And so, you know, it's all little pieces that make it the problem that we're addressing in the RAC, you know, today.
Okay.
And so, but that's how, you know, again, those fish get no reprieve.
Okay.
You know, as if you're drifting, you get one, unless you're, and there are guys out there that are strong enough to row up those, you know, I'm not saying it's there, but predominantly, you know, you're not, you know, unless you can hook, you know, if you don't know a drift boat. So again, it goes back to all the little pieces that it is that makes it the issue. And so that's why I'm on the stance of from Jack Morgan up is from there upriver, there is an inequitable share of resource. You know, to your by a motor restriction, it only solves a piece. In my opinion, we're only solving a piece of the problem, not solving it, not the problem, the issue at hand.
Craig, man, I just want to get back to square one here, figuring out, you know, the first meeting we talked a lot about not really bringing resources into this, the fisheries into this, right? Because this is a marine board issue. It's not an ODFW issue. It's not a fish issue. I mean, if there's 0 fish in the river, if there's 1 billion fish in the river, this is what we're here to do, is not really to address the fisheries issue, correct? It's not to address the erosion issue, because that is would be addressed by the state lands maybe, or
State lands.
EPA. I mean, anybody else has got, you know,
Yeah.
the people that have the owners of the riverfronts. So getting back to square one, I'm just trying to understand what we're doing here of figuring out running a boat in the river, right, is whether motor or without a motor. But we keep bringing in fisheries, and I mean, all of us do. Bank ownership, there's so many things that keep coming back to this, but I thought we're here to figure out whether to run a motor in this river or not. And we've established there's no safety issue, right? We talked about that on day one. We're not worried about the fisheries resources on this. We're not worried if one guy gets to catch 50 fish, one guy gets to catch 2 fish, right? Like,
So what the charter is, so we regulate boating activities, primarily law enforcement, safety, navigational hazards. That's our core function. We also have the authority to, trying to remember exactly how it's stated, maintain traditional boating activities and, you know, minimize conflict. So this is not per se a boating safety issue. And for boating safety, I mean boats running into each other. You know, yes, I understand there's safety issues because people are beating each other up because they get pissed off on how, or historically, are getting. So I'm trying to understand, can we do rule changes that would resolve some of the conflicts? And so I'm not going to make a specific rule to say you can't run a motor because of erosion. I can't do that. I can't say we're going to eliminate motors to save the fish. Now, I invited Chris to be on the rack because he was with ODF&W. We do have a special relationship with ODF&W. If they request that we make boating rules for the protection of fish and habitat, we can make those changes. And so fishing does come into it. If you came and said to me, we need to have a rule that says, we need to have 3 fish instead of 2 fish, I can't do anything about that. But to the extent, Chris makes a recommendation, or not Chris, it's going to be ODF&W. ODF&W makes a recommendation to change boating activity for the protection of fish, we can do that. So.
But that's not where this started. I mean, it didn't come from ODFW, correct?
Right, but they can weigh in. So I talked about the Rogue. On that, it was an issue about the big river, the big jet boats, the 40, I think 25 is the biggest boat they have. But that was a concern. But ODF&W weighed in and said, for the protection or to minimize the risk to game fish habitat, we recommend that you make these changes. So that's where we're at. So the fish issue is important. Some, like if you said 1 fish a day, you need to talk to ODF&W directly. But there's some things we can and can't do. So I want to listen to all the issues. And then when I make a recommendation to the board, I'm going to try and frame those issues in terms that we can address. Whether I can do that, I don't know. But I want to understand the entirety of the problem, and that will help me and Phil and Jennifer, come up with a recommendation, or our directors involved in that process too. But we as an agency will make a recommendation to the board.
I just want to know how much influence, these other factors need to play into what we're talking about.
The more you tell me now, the more tools we have to understand the issue. That's not saying, we can address every single aspect of this issue, but the better we understand the issue, the more we will be able to address potentially.
Yeah, and so I just want to help frame this a little bit because it was the Siletz tribe that submitted this petition.
Yeah.
And it was because of conflicts on the river caused by boat use on the river, and more specifically, motorized boating use on the river. And so that absolutely is within the purview of the Marine Board. And the fact that there is little to no restrictions on motorized boat use on this river has created conflicts with fishery, with the fishery, with access to the fishery, with our cultural rights on this river, which is in the heart of our reservation, and with ecological concerns, with impacts to reds and things. And so, and social issues, people are frustrated, landowners are frustrated, river users are frustrated. And so it's because of the use of the river in this way that we have this conflict. And so you have to consider all of those other uses because that nexus is the use of motorized boats on the river. And so that is something we can control. That is something that can be regulated, and it can hopefully resolve some of the conflicts that we're currently seeing on this river. And, you know, as Todd pointed out, all these other coastal rivers have pretty good restrictions on them. And Siletz doesn't. And that's been a problem for over 20 years. So hopefully we can come to a better set of rules that protects the stewardship of this river for all of us to enjoy. So that's why we issued, you know, that's why we sent the letter.
I wish I was, because that's perfect. And that's what we're trying, you know, I'm trying to get as holistic as possible so we can identify how we can make it better. You know, some pieces may not be things we can address, but you know, the better we understand, we can, you know, do something to help. Jay?
Yeah, I want to point out also that, for people like myself that aren't in the Siletz tribe, we still, that river is a huge part of our life. I mean, we just absolutely love it there. It's just, it's like paradise, you know, and we love fishing there. It's the most beautiful river on the Oregon coast. And I mean, it's a very special place. It's like one of my favorite happy place on earth is the Siletz River. And so, you know, and I enjoy using it the way I just follow the rules, and you know, my boat has a motor on it. That's the current rules. But what would be unfair to us would be if a different user group said, hey, you know, you should only use the river the way we think you should use the river. That wouldn't be fair, because right now, even though I'm using my motor, if Todd goes by me in his drift boat, or if he's in there pulling plugs, I'm going to go around him. I'm not going to even fish that hole. I'll drop down to the next hole. We're pretty courteous, at least I am, with other people on the water out there. So he's able to fish, you know, people are able to fish the way they want without a motor. I'm able to fish the way I want to with a motor. But if you do away with motors, you know, 90% of the boats out there have motors on them. So it's going to be the 10% telling the 90%. You guys can't recreate the way you choose to, because we don't think you should use motors. I mean, it's
So that's going to be our Marine Board formally, the 5 members. They're going to decide how to balance that. So, you know, all like what our goal is today is to provide them with the information so they have as much information as possible so they can figure out what the appropriate balance is for today. I don't know that I've talked about this before. After we make a rule, year 1, we'll do a review to kind of look at it and say, did we do it right? Did we completely miss it? Do we need to revisit it? You know, and at that point, the board can revoke the rule. They can change the rule. They can decide we need to give more time, or they can pat themselves on the back and say we did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, we know that the current rules have been in effect for years, right? Like 50 years, something like that. Long
Looking
time.
back 80, I think 87.
But I mean, it's been my understanding is this issue's been revisited several times by previous Marine boards, and they've always ruled in the same manner each time. And I don't see anything that's different that's changed this time from the last time. The last time they reviewed it, the last several times, it's like I said the first time, to me, it's all good. There's no reason to change anything.
All I can say is the current board, they're gonna make the decision as times change. And so, environmental factors are becoming more and more important every year. Whether that's enough to change the current board's mind, I don't know. My job, our job, present them with information that's important to this group. And I'm saying this group, I don't mean, that you're gonna come out of here as a unified body. But I'm gonna say, we have people who think this is the right direction, people who think this is the wrong direction. Here's why. And then the board, and we're gonna go through several other public comment periods that the board will participate in. And so, from today to final rulemaking, if we get there, I don't know what it's gonna look like. But today, we're just trying to present as much information as we can to the board so they can try and figure out what the balance should be. So,
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I looked on YouTube. And at the boat show of Portland, they were advertising this Magnum Bucket Craft. These are power drift boats, power sled drift boat hybrid. They're made to blow the riffle. And it shows a hybrid going up a shallow riffle. And he's throwing a hell of a dirt trail behind him. So if you don't get rid of these motors, you're gonna have trouble with these boats going up the river as far as they want. So you're not gonna solve nothing by doing a motor restriction. Not gonna solve nothing. You're gonna have more conflict than ever. As technology gets better, it's gonna get worse. That's just one boat. There's 5 of them here I can give you, and they go up to 25.5 foot. You want to see that big of a boat clean up moonshine run? I don't think so. And there's no stopping them. It's just like the restriction at Morton Park. Nothing recommended, nothing bigger than 15 horse. Well, they just took advantage of you. I see 225 horse, 175 horse, 90 horse, 20 footers, 20-some footers. It's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. And I disagree. I've been on that river cleaning up above Siletz on a 25 horse. And I got a sled boat.
So
And that's the damn truth.
one of my included in my report is I think everybody agreed that limiting horsepower is better than what we have today. It doesn't address all the issues, but it's a step in the right direction. Not saying that's where the board's going, and I'm gonna review this to make sure I understand where everybody's at. But I think, a lot of people said maybe reducing horsepower would benefit. So I'm not saying we're not gonna do anything.
At the very minimum, they have to do something.
Appreciate the comment. So other than what we've addressed, other than the petition, is there some idea that we haven't considered that we need to consider? Is there something that you guys have thought about that said, if we did this, that would address several of the issues that I haven't considered? And I always refer back to our board member that says, get creative. Member Withy. So if you guys have some thoughts on that, know, if you have them today, great. If you think something up down the road, let me know. We can address it, but, you know, we have license to come up with anything. Sure.
I mean, my thought is that is there a thought of taking certain smaller sections of the river? I mean, maybe at the mouth of Euchre Creek or the mouth of where the hatchery the tribal hatchery comes in, taking a section through there where there's going to be, and I'm trying to be, I don't know, like respectful of the tribe,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
is there certain sections where you could say, from 1,000 feet above this to 1,000 feet below this, there's no motors in this section, and the boats would need to respect that and go off the motor through that section of river, row. They can still fish it, but row, but they're not going to be disturbed in certain tribal areas of the river where there could be a respect given from the power boaters, where there's respect given from the tribe for the rest of the, so where the people that want to use motors can use motors. Certain sections that may mean more than others. I'm not talking 15-mile sections. I'm talking, areas where there's deadlines. There's deadlines in lots of other places where you can't fish above a certain section. You can't motorize. You can't use a motor above this section or that section. And there's sections that are open to use for motors. And I'm not disagreeing with, having a 250 horsepower motor in certain sections of river or a power drifter going, which, I've seen lots of power drifters, never once seen, and I don't think from Clack you could ever once get one without a pump on it. They don't build them that way. That's, if you want to go in, I guess, if you want to go afterwards and put your own motor on it, that's something you could do, but I don't think that's really the design of them. They're a flat bottom boat, a fully flat bottom boat.
So I think that's really specific. So maybe what I would ask, if the RAC members would agree, maybe evaluate something like that and let us know if something like that makes sense. Because standing here today, that's a great, whether it fixes any issues, I don't know. No. If it makes sense, and
I just think it pays a respect to both parties
Yeah,
involved
yeah.
of saying there's areas where, we'll respect that this deadline to that deadline that we won't use a motor, but we can use it from this section to this section,
Yeah.
where we want, and I don't think just big sections, I think some key areas that are important to the user group.
Someone has a comment.
Okay, no motors gives everyone an equal chance to float down the river and fish. There would not be a decrease in river traffic. If anything, there will be an increase. There are numerous users that no longer visit the Siletz due to the motors. We all love fishing the river and everyone will get an equal shot. Many like motors because it gives them an advantage. No motors gives everybody the same opportunity. So kind of coming back to your comments. So looking at the Siletz River, on our website, we have called the boom map. It's voter opportunity. I forget what it stands for. But in there, we have all of our regulations. And if you look at the Siletz, we have slow, no wake for the protection of marinas and docks. The Siletz is terrible for that because we have a section here, a section there, a section there, a section here. And so then once we get up above a certain point, river mile 12, we have no jet pumps. And so I think the concept is similar, where you would have an area that you couldn't use a motor. And so I think that's a reasonable concept. Do you guys want to discuss that now, or do you want to have time to think about it?
Well, I think the hard part is defining where those areas would be, because the entire river has cultural significance. and certain sections of the river, were historically owned by tribal families. Some are still owned by tribal families. And so it would be really difficult to define that, especially if you're looking at smaller pieces and chunks. And I'm not sure if it would provide significant benefit to the issues we're trying to address. I mean, I understand the concept for sure.
Alan, are you referring to Below Morgan?
So I think we all agreed we're not discussing below Morgan today.
Okay.
So I think I'm talking above Morgan.
Oh, we already know there's no jet motors above
Right.
Morgan.
Right. Okay, this is attendance. Do we have one that said public comment? No. Okay. So any other comments?
Could we do a process check as far as the timelines of when recommendations will go to the board, when the board's likely to issue a rule, and the timeframes again, just so folks are fresh in their minds what that looks like?
So our next board meeting is October. I think initially we would have liked to have had a draft recommendation for the board at that meeting. And I'm not saying we're not going to do that. Still a possibility, but it's not set in stone. But the goal would be recommendations of the board. The board has the opportunity to accept the recommendation. If they do that, then we put it out for public comment. We have to have the public comment open for 30 days or 28 days.
28 days from when the notice is filed with the Secretary of State.
Then if 5 or more people request a hearing, we have to do a hearing, which I think a hearing is going to be given. And the board can make a determination of 1 hearing, 2 hearings, whatever they think is appropriate. That format is different than the RAC. It's not an interactive process. So a hearing looks like, depending on, typically it's going to be me. The board may decide to do it themselves, but what it is essentially an open mic. Anybody who wants to show up will have a set time to provide testimony. The board will listen, or I will listen. It'll be recorded, and typically, whether the board's conducting or I'm conducting, the board will listen. But every individual will have the opportunity to provide testimony for 2 to 3 minutes or whatever is determined the amount of time. It's not a question and answer. The person will have the opportunity to make the statement they want to make. Then the next person will come up and we'll do that as long as there's, the time frame set out or people there to testify. And then based on that, the board will go back and determine if they have enough information to approve a final rule. If they don't think they do, they can open up for additional comment. They can make revisions. Typically, if they make a revision, we will open that up for public comment. It depends on the type of revision. If it's, wording that doesn't, if there's no substance to it, just makes it clear, they probably wouldn't send it back out for public comment. But if they're changing the recommendation, they'll likely send it out for additional public comment. And then we'll go through the public comment hearing process again. So I don't have an end date. Just depends on what the board decides they need to hear from the public and how many changes they decide to make. And if we're not ready based on the RAC, so we've got 2 more meetings scheduled, September and October. If September meeting comes and we say, you know, we want to explore some additional ideas and we need additional time. I don't think the board is going to be upset if we move the proposed till our January meeting.
So a decision on a rule, proposed rule, would have to occur at one of these quarterly meetings.
Yes.
So either October or January or April or.
And then typically we'll go through, well, we'll go through the public process, and then typically at the next meeting is when the board will vote.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Just if there's any consideration, we've done 2 of these over here in Newport now, and I mean, I live in the valley, and so I don't, if there's any opportunity to do maybe one meeting at the State Marine Board, where I don't have to drive to Newport. I mean, handful of us live in the valley. I think it's fair that I've come over here twice now on my own time in the Accord, and it's a 5-hour round trip for where I live. So I thought maybe we could have one at the State Marine Board, at least in Salem, or the central location.
Okay.
That's where I live too.
Well, that's where I'm coming from too. So I'll talk with Jennifer, our director, to see how they want to do that.
Or some mutually
middle ground.
agreeable location that's
Corvallis, maybe
I could do Corvallis. That's
Closer.
halfway between.
Yeah.
For most of us.
So we'll figure out those logistics. So with that, we're closing the RAC meeting, open it up for public comment. So we didn't record who wanted to provide public comment. So I'm going to give everybody the opportunity, start here, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Do you have any public comment?
I would need several minutes to kind of confirm.
Okay, so let's move on. Do either of you have comments you'd like to make?
Yeah,
Could you state your name for the,
so I'm a Siletz tribal member, a member of the Natural Resource Committee that brought this up. So it's not only just tribal members that complain about motors, but other people. The fish on the bank and these guys got their motors and they just keep going back and forth, back and forth. And it's been like the last 6 years, it's been an explosion of motors. You should never see a motor above Siletz on the drift boat. And then, you know, the laws has been so lax, being it's a recommendation, and now about every drift boat has a motor. So we're just trying to make it better quality fishing. Because you're sitting there and then there go by and the guide's doing something, they motor back up and they just keep, you know, not just picking on the guides, but other people do it besides the guides too.
Yeah.
So it's just got way out of hand. Plus it kind of takes away from, you know, what drift fishing used to be. Sit there and listen to a motor. And I don't think a motor makes you catch any more fish. I think that's baloney, but.
all right. Thank you, sir.
And I like your idea, you know, from Jack Morgan up, clear into the mouth, just eliminate all motors. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I'm Scott Ammerman. Fishing guide in the area. Last time a couple people brought up, my injury specifically, asking about State Marine Board standards for injuries. Yes, we have to pass physical for the Coast Guard, that kind of stuff. There's a difference between being able to pass physical and being able to row like one day and being able to guide and do a career thing of rowing 3 days a week or 5 days a week. So I just wanted to address that yes, there is a physical you have to pass. You said something about 15 horsepower above Ojala, and I would say that would be something that would be beneficial. Mike said he's had his boat up there with a bigger motor. I could run I have a 20-foot sled with a 90 horse prop. I could run mine up there all winter steelhead season, but I don't. I self-regulate myself and don't do it. It was way easy for me to fish up there all winter steelhead fishing, but I don't. I keep myself not to go in that area because there would be conflict in that area if I fished. And unfortunately, I fish about a 2-mile section from Morgan Park up in my small sled. It's where Mike lives. So unfortunately, that puts me and Mike in the same area. So I get completely his understanding of what his complaint is, that kind of thing. So I would say a 15 horsepower. Mike said, well, people can go up there and do whatever they want all the way up to Moonshine. Well, if you put a 15 horsepower to draw, it would stop that what if. What could people could go do that, but we don't, but it would stop it. And it would be a regulation that would hurt, and we could address Ojala down to try to appease Mike and stuff like that. My concern is if you went 15 horsepower down there, when I go upriver, I can go fast enough that I can get my motors out of the water, off the bottom. So I'm never hitting the bottom, but if I had to go up with a 15 horse, I'd watch people do it in their drift boat and they just drag the bottom all the way up because they're going slow. They can't get their motor out. They beat the gravel and that becomes an issue. And I fish the Wilson. I fish a lot of the rivers that you have on there. The Wilson's a 5 mile an hour, no way. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to address this gentleman. What you're talking about is very rude behavior. and I-
So hang on.
No, I'm on his team.
We're addressing me though.
Okay, sorry. What that gentleman was talking about is rude behavior, and I'd like to address that. I don't, if I saw that happen to him, I'd do something about it, and I think most of us would. You shouldn't be fishing in front of a big fisherman. It's rude to go back and forth. I don't care if guide or no guide. There's no excuse for it.
Can we get his?
My dad would have paddled my behind if I acted like that.
Oh,
So that kind of stuff should be addressed. I fully agree.
could you say,
Oh, sorry, Grant Shealy, Molly.
I'm sorry, did you have further comments?
That's good enough.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, my name is Bud Shoemake, and I've lived on the Siletz River about a couple miles below Moonshine in Paradise for 32 years. And so I've kind of watched the growth and the abuse of the river. Right now, we're at a 130-year low. And I support the tribes banning of the motors. You see boats just run up and down right in front of my house. And it's not good. And I think we need to think about the fish in that river and protect, you know, it's not a good thing. It seems like a no-brainer. And I'm a huge supporter of the Marine Board. I worked in port industries over 30 some years for both Newport and Toledo. And I benefit from the Marine Board in a lot of ways with access, that kind of thing. But they need to make the right decision here and not the wrong decision. I support tribe is doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have comments, sir?
Yeah, my name is Bud Wayne. I'm also a tribal member of the Confederate Tribe of Siletz. I'm also vice chairman of the Siletz Tribal Council. And I've lived on the Siletz River most of my life, right in town. And, you know, this motorized craft has to stop. There's several reasons why it should, but there's one main one for Siletz people. That river is sacred to us. We use it in a lot of different ways that most non-Indians can't understand or don't know about. And I'm not going to go into all of that here right now, but the pressures on the river are real. Even was talking about going up to heating the motors. No one's even thinking about the contamination of the water, which Siletz and Newport and Toledo still all use, people who use that water resource. And it's not just, we have a responsibility. Our people have always believed that we have a responsibility towards all those animals and fish that can't speak for themselves. The resource was put here for us by God is our belief. But the caveat is that you've got to take care of it. We have a responsibility towards all of those things. To just take care of them and make sure that they're all right. And they'll provide a resource for us, not just for this generation, but for those yet unborn that are going to come into the world. So I hope the Marine Board really takes a hard look at this and sees the folly of continued motorized use on the river. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name's also Buddy Lane. There's 3 Buds in a row here. I'm a Siletz tribal member and lifelong resident. I also serve on our elected board or tribal council. Born in 1982, so turned for 43 this year. Just in my short time, I've seen the conditions on the river and the runs a pretty healthy decline. A number of the different runs that happen spring, summer, winter, and fall. So to act like, oh, you know, the rules have been the rules for so long, that everything's just okay. I do not subscribe to that line of thinking. And I just think folks might have their head in the water or are just not looking at what I'm seeing myself. And, but just touched on the importance of it, that river bears the name of our confederation. All different tribal groups that were brought to Siletz and confederated here on the reservation. And there's a painful history, and we watch with sad eyes and are told stories about where folks used to fish and methods. And, we dealt with the consent decree for my entire life, and that's gone down. So I think the potential for conflict is only going to increase as we begin to exercise treaty rights, our God-given rights as tribal members. I think there's potential here. I've heard good ideas. I've heard a lot of half measures and a lot of self-regulation, which to me sounds like something too good to be true. It usually ain't. So I hope the Marine Board takes this serious and hears us. There's tribal members, non-tribal members, whole chorus of folks in our community. And I'm glad you had both your meetings here. This is the area we're talking about. This is our home here. I just hope you take it serious, our petition, and hear us. I'm in full support.
Thank you, sir. Do you have comments?
Diego McGill. Doodles to the buds.
Thanks,
No,
sir.
that's it.
Did you have enough time to formulate? You don't have to.
No, I don't have anything to say.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending. We'll figure out if we're going to change the next meeting location, and we'll provide notice.
You'll be here on the 16th, and they'll look at the October meeting of the location.
So we'll figure it out and let everybody know.
The next one is scheduled on September 16th, 3 p.m.
Right.
And you all have a doodle poll for the October meeting. Thank you. Thanks. I'm
All right,
aware
thank you guys.